Welcome back to the Whole Nine Yards here on a Thursday afternoon. Drew Pien here with Brandon Krikorian. Brandon, I'm sorry to ask this, but how you doing? I'm just assuming the answer is going to be like not the best.
Well, why would I not be doing the best? Oh, well, yeah. If this was yesterday, I guess I'd be feeling worse. I already kind of forgot about it, but yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. How I want it to, start baseball or have the baseball playoffs start. Yeah, I guess do we want to just talk about that right now, or do we want to save it for later?
We can save it for later.
All right, we'll save it for later. But yeah, definitely not feeling the best right now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ecstatic either about it. The AL wildcard specifically.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I think you're right. I mean, okay, well, I guess we're just going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think both of those teams would have been eliminated by the Rays regardless.
I think so as well.
I think the first thing you have to start is you pay a guy $325 million and he can't get you through like 3 innings. I mean,
well, to be fair, I think he was injured. He pulled his hamstring in early September, and ever since then, they showed the numbers throughout the game. His ERA has been over 6, so I do think he was probably somewhat injured. But to be fair, if you're going to take the ball, you do have to pitch. And he was bad. You're right. He definitely was not good. Just not even like not even the 2 innings, but just like the amount of pitches he had to throw, the pitches that he was throwing. It was just like, he clearly had no command of his fastball. He threw a changeup to Bogarts. He kind of doesn't really throw that changeup, especially a guy like Bogarts. So weird pitches, definitely missed locations, and I don't think he had any feel of the ball whatsoever. And yeah, you're right. It definitely that's one that he's gonna have to overcome. Like next year, assuming they make the playoffs or whatever, he's gonna have to be like incredible next year. He's gonna have to have a couple performances that completely outweigh this one, because I think a lot of fans aren't gonna be able to forgive him for this one.
Yeah, no, he needs to come back next year. I mean, whatever pitcher you look at and think this guy's horrible in the playoffs, whether it be Kershaw or, I mean, he kind of has that stain on him now.
Well,
I mean, not as bad as Kershaw. I'm just saying he's like started it, and it's hard to like get that off of your chest or back or whatever, because it happened to Price for a while, it happened to Kershaw for a while. I mean, it's still kind of
happening. I mean, again, to be fair, Cole in 2019 was crazy in the playoffs, and they didn't pitch him against the Nationals in Game 7. So, and then even last year, I think he pitched twice, and he was pretty good in those starts. So I think this is really, I mean, the first bad one he had was the Wildcard game when he was with the Pirates. But again, that was 2015. He's a completely different pitcher. But yeah, you're right. This is like his worst one since he's become this elite pitcher. But I would say he's been pretty good in the playoffs before this one, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I would also say that there are more Yankee fans than Astro and Pirate fans combined. Probably like you could take 20 of the 30 teams in the MLB and there's more Yankee fans than those other 20 teams combined. So I think it does make it just a completely different ball game in terms of like how fans think of you and how the media thinks of you. So I think it's going to be tough. But yeah, I mean, I would expect him to bounce back. He's an elite pitcher. I have no doubt in my mind. I'm not going to agree or disagree with him being injured. I just think that I would say if you're taking the mound in the wild card game, I don't care if you're injured or not. Like if you're injured, then you shouldn't be pitching, and it should have been somebody else. But it was a tough loss. The NL side, what are your first reactions from that game?
Yeah, that was just a classic game. It only ended up being 3-1, but that's a game where it was 2 really good pitchers, and they weren't even that good. Scherzer had to get pulled after 4 1/3, which could have been a questionable decision if they were to give up those runs, because there was 2 guys on base, so they if that were to come back to haunt them, then Roberts would have got killed by the media, but it didn't. They did get out of it. But Wainwright was pretty good as well. It was just a game where it was 2 guys. They definitely weren't on the top of their game, but the offenses were making him throw pitches, working at bats like crazy. And then it turned out the Cardinals had so many opportunities. I forget exactly what the stat was, but I know at one point they were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and they never did get a hit with guys in scoring position. It probably was like 0 for 13, and the Dodgers, the better team, finally prevailed and then won the game. So yeah, I guess I wasn't surprised. Like we both had the Dodgers winning, but it was definitely a really good game. Just a really close playoff game. Then obviously a walk-off homer to win it. So couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, no, I would agree with everything you said. And this, I've said this before. I may or may not have said this on the podcast before, but I mean, out of all the baseball content, I think the wild card games are the two best games of the year most of the time. I just think there's so much at stake in a one and done, especially in baseball. You play 162 games in a year, and then you got to play one for it all. I just think it's crazy. It is crazy. I mean, that's obvious, but it's just I do think those are the two best games of the year, and I don't know how you could like implement stuff like the wild card more into baseball, but I don't know. I mean, we kind of start to get into that like how do we fix baseball type of thing, but yeah, I mean those two games were. I mean, not as much the AL game, but even then, like even when a game is like a blowout, kind of, it's still like there's just a one and done is just crazy, and it helped that it was Yankees Red Sox for sure.
Yeah, and even that Yankee Red Sox game was a lot closer than it seemed, because when they get thrown out at home, that would have made it 3-2. Or let's say they just don't go home, you have two guys on with one out, you're at least assuming a run is going to score there. So it could have been, it went from technically almost a 3-2 game to then the Red Sox scored in the bottom of the inning, so it went to a 4-1 game. So it just changes the complete game. And at that point, and once we got thrown out at home, I kind of knew the game was over, because it's just like it's such a gut punch, especially like I played baseball in the past. You just like what that feels like, and then for the Red Sox to come out and score a run, basically on the same play where the guy on first and they send him home and he gets thrown out. So he scores for the Red Sox, I should say. It just completely changes the game, and all the momentum went all the way back to the Red Sox, and then at that point the game was over.
Hindsight, obviously 2020. Do you disagree with the call to send Judge there? Or?
I mean, look, like. I don't think they should have sent him. And again, like obviously he was out, but Judge isn't the fastest guy, to be fair. It was a really good relay, which I think they showed it, like by the time he stepped on third, the ball was like just starting to come in. So like, it's you probably should have seen. I don't know. It's again, you're being a third base coach. I've never done it, so it's hard to know. But I would take my chances with second and third, one out. Even though Gallo's up next and he's been terrible all year, I'd take my chance with that. Then again, making it out at home plate, and now you're two out to the guy on second, and you need a base hit to score, probably even a double, to be honest, with Stanton. So, and the only reason Stanton was on second base was because Judge got thrown out. So it would have been first and third if they never sent him, to be fair, I guess. But even still.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to be like, I disagree with the call, because obviously, hindsight 2020, he was out. And I've never been a third base coach other than like in your, classic rec league where you run out there as a player and coach third base, but I feel like you don't have enough responsibilities to be getting calls like that wrong in the only one and done game in all of baseball. Maybe I'm just reading, maybe that's just, maybe it was a coin flip and he sends it and you take it, but I don't know. I mean, I didn't think it was a great call, but it's tough to be like, it was not like an atrocious like all-time bad call or anything. It's just clearly not a good call.
Yeah, and like if he scores, then it's a great call, and obviously if he gets thrown out, it's a terrible call. So it's kind of a lose-lose, like not like a lose-lose, but it's almost like a lose-lose, because if it just fails, then you're completely killed all over social media and everything. But at that point the game was over. It was just, and even the Red Sox kind of saved the Yankees by taking Eovaldi out. That was a really questionable decision. He gave up a homer and then a really weak single to take him out right away. He was only at 70 pitches, and he was basically dominating the whole game. That almost gave it all the way back to the Yankees, but that happened then.
All right, so good wild card games, divisional series. We'll just talk strictly. We'll go AL first. I mean, you're sticking with the Rays against the Red Sox, or?
Yeah, even if it was the Yankees, I'd still pick the Rays. I think the Rays are just the complete better team against both teams. And, I'd be surprised if it goes all 5 games. I think it goes 4 games.
I will agree. I'll say Rays in 4, sure. NL, this is a more exciting series, obviously. Giants, Dodgers.
Yeah, that's going to be a great series.
I think there are many that would argue that this is essentially the World Series being played in the divisional series, but
possibly. I think this is for sure at least the NLCS, like if you were to look at it that way. And then I think if it was like the Rays Dodgers or Rays Giants, that would be an acceptable World Series, just based on the two teams that were playing. But yeah, this is going to be probably the best series maybe of the whole playoffs, and it's hard not to go with the Dodgers. You know, they're gonna. I think they've. I don't know who's pitching game one for them. It may be Bueller. I know he pitched on Sunday, so maybe not. But it's. I mean, it's going to be a great series. I'd like to go with the Dodgers. I think they're the better team, but it's really honestly a coin flip, to be honest.
I mean, I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I'll go with Dodgers, and I mean, I'll go in 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair. I mean, them in 5 or the Giants in 5. I mean, you really can't go wrong, to be honest.
Yeah, and I do think this is like the de facto World Series. I can't trust the Rays. I don't know why. Maybe I just need to see them come big and big. I mean, they've been big in big moments, but they've never really, So I don't know.
Yeah, and the one thing for the Dodgers that they have no Max Muncy for the playoffs. They haven't the last game of the season, so maybe that affects them somewhat. One game it's not going to affect you, but maybe over 5 games it does. But yeah, I'd probably agree. I think I'd go Dodgers in 5.
I mean, the Dodgers could probably lose another 2 players and then still go Dodgers in 5.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I mean, again, the Giants don't have the most talent in the world. They have a year where everyone's having career years, but sometimes it just works out like that. Then they keep doing it in the playoffs. Or sometimes, if you look at the 2001 Mariners, when they won 116 games, they lost in the divisional round. So, you never know.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. As far as the Dodgers are concerned, it would be such a choke, though, to lose in the divisional series. I know it's against the Giants, who you technically had a worse record than, but to essentially choke in playoff after playoff, finally come through in the COVID year, and then have the most stacked team since, maybe the Mariners in 2001 or maybe ever, to lose in the divisional series to essentially a team that we both had as, I know they're a great team. They're all having career years, and they made some trade deadline acquisitions, but a team that essentially people had a 500 team, maybe less, to lose to that team when this was supposed to be your first coming out year. We're the Golden State Warriors of the MLB. The COVID year was not a fluke. I mean, that would be scary. I mean, that's a scary thought to think.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see if they do lose this series, what the conversations is going to be. I don't think anything's going to happen, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the Giants were a team that was supposed to go 70, 75 wins, maybe 80 wins at most, but probably not. And they have the best record in the MLB, and they held off the Dodgers the entire season. So it's a really weird case where the Dodgers, I think almost everyone would agree, probably the better team, but I think a lot of people would probably go with the Giants in this series. So it's just a really weird situation here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for the record, if the Dodgers were to lose a series, I would say they don't have a legit World Series. I know that's kind of cringe to say, but
yeah, I wouldn't agree with that, but
it's not even I'm just biased against the Dodgers, I think, but
well, there's gonna be no Kershaw in this playoffs.
I mean, does it matter?
I don't know.
That could be.
He was really good last year. To be fair, he did silence it last year. He was really good last year.
I mean,
but you have Scherzer, you have Bueller still, but there's no if they lose, you can never blame it on Kershaw, at least this year, because obviously he's not going to be pitching. You can still blame it on Jansen or something, but
I could blame it on Kershaw. I'll find a way. I'll find a way to blame it on Kershaw.
He wasn't cheering hard enough on the bench.
I mean, he wasn't. I'll find a way. Anyways, that's pretty much.
Well, now that all the teams are set, should we make our actual prediction for World Series?
Sure. All right. You can go first. Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I think I have the Rays coming out of the AL. I think they are the best team. It will be interesting to see this Astros White Sox series, which starts in about an hour and a half from when we're recording this. But I think the Astros will win that series. Even though I've always liked the White Sox, I think the Astros are the more experienced team, obviously, and I think this is probably their last run. Correa is going to be a free agent. They've already lost a couple of guys as well. So I think they'll win that series, but I think the Rays will beat them in the ALCS just like last year. And in the NL, I think it's whoever wins the Giants-Dodgers series. But honestly, if the Giants win and the Brewers win, I could pick the Brewers over the Giants. But I think the Dodgers will win. I think the Dodgers beat the Brewers. Dodgers-Rays, I think I go Dodgers again. in probably 7. I think I'd go that. I think the Rays are better than they were last year, but it also, you just never know what's going to happen with them. Whether they listen to, they did last year when they pull Snell, are they going to pull someone out randomly, or are they going to do something, that makes no sense and then it's going to cost them later? I think something like that could happen again.
I'm going to go Astros in the AL, and I'm going to go Dodgers in the NL. I'm going to say Astros. Oh, my God, no, I can't. No. I mean, I should pick the Dodgers. I mean, I've been like the Dodgers are the Warriors, and I wouldn't want to get that wrong, and I don't want to be stubborn. I'm going to go Dodgers win. I'm going to go Dodgers in 6. I just think the Dodgers have too much talent. We'll see how it plays out. I've always thought that they find a way to choke almost anything. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna go Dodgers. I think Dodgers win against the Giants. Obviously, I'll have the Dodgers beating the Brewers too. I'll go Dodgers in 5 there.
5, okay.
Yeah, and then I'll go Dodgers in 6 against the Astros.
And then I'm assuming Rays versus Astros.
Yeah, I'll have Rays Astros. I'll have Astros in 6.
Astros in 6, and then World Series was in 6.
Yeah, Dodgers in 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we both have Dodgers, but against 2 different teams. But everything else was the same. I mean, I don't want to go Dodgers, but I think if they win this series, I think they're for sure getting in there. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to not choose them. I think anyone would choose them. Frankly,
I don't want to choose like any of these teams. I'm not like I'm not a fan of any of these teams, obviously, but I'm not really like, I'm not even like I don't like care for any of these teams really. I don't know how you feel, except for like maybe the Astros, but I mean that's even kind of cringe to say because.
Yeah, I don't say I care for any of these teams. I don't know. I definitely don't like the Dodgers, but I do enjoy watching them. I think it's just because they're really good, and that's kind of what I'd hope the Yankees would play like. But yeah, I guess maybe I like the Dodgers. I don't know. Not like I don't like them, but
yeah,
they're just fun to watch.
Yeah.
I love watching Trey Turner, so I think that's probably why.
All right, well, that's the MLB. We'll be back with more stuff on that next episode. We'll get into NFL, couple free agency type of things going on. We'll start
some transactions.
Yeah.
Do we want to start with the bigger one or the smaller one?
We'll start with the one that happened first, which was Jalen Smith. Did you talk about it already?
It happened the night after I recorded my Cowboys episode, so I didn't even know about it. So
the Cowboys cut Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll let the Cowboys fans start because I'll go quick. From a non-educated Cowboys follower perspective, my read on this is you signed him to an extension, and then he was garbage, and now he's so bad to the point where you just have to cut your losses, and it's over. I don't know. I mean, like, that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple factors to this, and I'll start by saying my, instant reaction to when I saw it. It was a tweet from Schefter. It said, in-season surprise, Cowboys cut Jalen Smith. It definitely was surprising because it was in the middle, after 4 weeks or whatever. And I thought it's always a possibility of happening, probably after the season. I didn't know his contract in detail. And then it came out, after everyone's reporting on it that, he had a $9 million guarantee for next season as long as he didn't get injured. So they just didn't, or if he did get injured, I think that's what it was. So they just, that was part of the reason. Another part of the reason is just because he fell out of favor. You have Micah. You have Leighton Vander Esch. You have Keanu Neal, who's just on COVID list, so he wasn't even playing the last 2 weeks. That's why Smith was playing more. You have Jabril Cox, who we drafted in the 4th round from LSU, who everyone loved coming out of the draft. And he played a lot in the preseason. Obviously, didn't play a lot in the regular season, so he's going to get more snaps. So he kind of was just falling out of favor in Dan Quinn's defense, which shows you how much influence Dan Quinn has. And also, Mike McCarthy didn't even know about it until after Jalen Smith was cut. Jerry Jones talked to Smith, and then he talked to McCarthy. So I think McCarthy's out of the loop for sure. And I'll be surprised. I wonder if he'll be head coach next year, but that's another conversation. But yeah, I would say I loved Jalen Smith in 2017, 2018. but he's just not the same player. The speed's not there. The coverage has never been there. He's awful in coverage. And now with the speed gone, he can't rush the passer like he at least was able to do early, or at least stop the run. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, like, you know, I've seen a lot of people saying, like, how it's, like, super surprising and that they don't like it. I think it's the right move because Cox is the better player. You're not paying any of your linebackers at all now. You still have dead cap from Smith for this year, but nothing for next year. You're not paying your linebackers anything, not paying your secondary anything. You're only paying your defensive line and then obviously the guys on offense. So I think it was a good move. And people talk about the chemistry as well. Maybe, I mean, he was a big voice in the locker room, but you know, it's football. You have leaders, you know, that can overtake that spot. So I think it was the right move, to be honest.
I'm not going to disagree. I mean, if he had been playing extremely well, I would obviously disagree. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that.
And I mean, he was second in the league in tackles last year, but I think tackles is a little overrated of a stat.
It is, yeah.
Because, you know, there's guys, you know, for some guys it matters, but you know, a lot of times it's just, you know, if you're a linebacker, you're going to get tackles. That's just how it works. So that was a little overrated. This year, he definitely hasn't been playing bad, but I'd rather go with Parsons, Van Der Esch, Cox, and Neal. I think that's a way better linebacker group. So I think it works this system way better.
Yeah, I talked about this briefly in my Patriots podcast last week, but my ideal linebacker is a guy who has elite speed, is at least good in coverage, and just chases the ball. I mean, really, it just comes down to speed. I think speed, I don't even think size is really that big of a deal. Like, Devin White, we saw him in the playoffs last year. Not as much Levante David now, but even still Levante David, especially Levante David when he wasn't, like, old. I think those are your, like, ideal prototypes for linebackers, and it's something that Bill has just not addressed at all. I don't know how you feel about, like, the line. I mean, I don't know how you feel about, like, Van Der Esch specifically and, like, those guys specifically. But, yeah, I earlier on in the NFL, the past, 20 years or whatever, I guess the linebackers have just been slower. And, I mean, it really probably started in, like, 2014, 2015 when the linebackers really started to just become, you just grab super athletic guys and hope they can cover. And I think Jamie Collins was the first guy I remember that was like a really just elite athlete, not even like an elite linebacker necessarily. And I think that's like the prototype you want going forward. I could be wrong, but I just think the run stuff, like Phil Gapp's linebacker who is slow and can't cover a running back, is just, I just think you can't have that anymore.
Yeah, they're getting phased out because you just need to cover tight ends because of how big they are, or like running backs in the flat. Like, you just need to have athletic guys. That's why Keanu Neal is, that's why it was rather him or Smith, and obviously it was going to be Neal the whole time because, former safety who's always been a linebacker but was forced to play safety, but he's so athletic and so fast. Smith just couldn't cover those guys, and again, he's better in coverage as well, so... I would agree. I mean, I want my linebackers. If you're going to be like a Parsons, where you could just rush the quarterback and your coverage isn't as good, even though he's a rookie, I'll take that. Or take the guy who's just like a coverage guy who can cover those tight ends, like a Neal, like someone like that. I'll take either one of those. And again, Van Der Esch, he's not good in coverage either, but he's such a good run stopper that it's good to have him. But we'll see what happens with him as well. He's kind of like Smith. If he doesn't like start playing better than like what he was in 2018, maybe not that level, but better, we'll see what happens with him because the money that he's gonna want a contract, and I think with his injury concern as well, I think it's somewhat of a question, but I guess we'll see. I was watching his post. I mean, he had a conference after Smith got released, and he was super emotional about it. So maybe that says something about his future. I don't know, but
writings on the wall. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe
we will see. The other transaction was Patriots trade Stephon Gilmore to the Panthers for a conditional sixth, I believe it is. I'd have to double check, but I believe it's just a conditional, essentially nothing. They cut him at first, and then eventually they realized that the Panthers were willing to give up a sixth, and the Panthers are about as far away from the Patriots as you can be, cross-conference, so they took that. What do I think as far as a Patriots fan? It's like tough to tell. I know this is like a cop-out answer, but the people in the locker room are going to know how severe is Gilmore's injury. He didn't play well last year. He played okay. Like, he was a solid corner, but he was not, defensive player of the year, which he was 2 years ago. With that being said, if they really think he's just done, then, like, sure, I guess you take the 6th. But it's tough because if he does become anything, then I would say it's a bad trade. But I know Bill likes to be a year early rather than a year late on guys. But I think this is a move that could bite you in the butt. I think it would have bit you in the butt much harder if you actually had cut him, because I think he goes to maybe Tampa, maybe Kansas City, maybe Dallas, to a team that's going to be in the playoffs, and you would see Stephon Gilmore make a real impact on those teams. Him going to Carolina, I think it's much less likely you really kind of see him flourish. I think he'll be all right, but he could just be done from injury. He could really be done because there was an argument to be made that J.C. Jackson was the better corner last year. So we'll see. But if this does end up being a bad move, then there's a lot of stuff adding up in general, and this could be a thing that eventually leads to Belichick either leaving or being fired. Seriously, I know that's a lot to say, but
I don't really look at it like that. He's in the final year of his contract, and I don't think the Patriots were going to pay him what he maybe would have expected in a free agency, whether it was a multi-year deal. Not like a crazy deal, obviously, because of the injury and everything, but at least a deal that the Patriots probably were not willing to give to him. So, yeah, if you're going to cut someone and you can get a trade for him, no matter what you get back in the trade, it's better than just cutting someone. So to get a six round pick, everyone's going to look at that and be like, that's crazy for a guy who won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago. But, that's the best you were going to get, and that's just what happens sometimes. But, yeah, he had $5.8 million left on his deal here, so now you can at least trade that. It's not like it's going against you. And it frees up salary cap space for the Patriots as well. And I think it was a good trade considering that they were going to cut him, and at least they were able to trade him. Like I just said, if you're going to cut someone, you might as well. If you can trade him, trade him.
Well, sure, yeah. I'm not going to deny that. I'm more questioning the decision to cut or trade. But we'll see.
I don't know.
Listen, regardless, the ideal move would have been to trade him. 18, 20 months ago, whenever,
right after he won Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, not even necessarily, but maybe that deadline. Last year's deadline would have been a good play. You could have.
It could have.
You were never going to get 2 firsts for Gilmore Ramsey got, but you could have got a second. We're not even talking right after you won Depoy. We're talking maybe 7 or 8 months after he wins Depoy. Trade deadline, you see, with Cam, you're kind of just not all that. Ship Gilmore to a contender. They'll give you a second rounder. Use him for 2 years or a year and a half. You essentially didn't get a second rounder because you decided to hold on to him. So. Well,
they tried trading him this offseason. I don't know what the offers would have been. I think they were still somewhat pretty high, though, considering it was this offseason. But it never worked out, and then, I don't know. I guess the only way you could fault them is just not trading him earlier, but, the deadline last year, I think, maybe they could have traded him. I think it was probably still a little early. Maybe they still could have seen what was going to happen in the future. He got injured, and then he's out and he was on the PUP list or whatever. So, I don't know. I think the only fault would be just maybe not trading him earlier, but even still.
I think that's a big fault. Just think about a player wins Depoy, and then 18 months after he wins Depoy, he gets traded for a 6th round pick. To me, regardless of his performance, the first thing you have to look at, considering as the team you know the most about Gilmore or any player that wins any player in general, far more than you know more about that guy than all the 31 other teams. To trade him 18 months later for a 6th round pick is pretty bad in my opinion. But I'm harping. Really, it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I don't think you needed Gilmore on this team. J.C. Jackson is we'll see how he is in that cornerback 1 role. He's essentially been playing it for obviously the first 4 weeks now, and really you could argue all of last year. He wasn't in the role, but he might have been the best corner on that team. I want to see how he stacks up against your D-hops of the league. Probably not very well, but he also leads the league in interceptions since 2019 by like over 4 or something, which is another one of those random stats that like people like to give, but maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't.
Well, he's going to face Amari next week, so.
Yeah, but not that Amari's bad,
Well, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, they didn't. You're right. They didn't need Gilmore on this team anyways. I don't, so. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the Patriots guy and stuff, so I wouldn't know all the inner workings of all that. But I don't think they didn't need him. And with the final year of the contract, they said they tried to restructure his deal to free up the salary cap. They didn't want to do it. That's why they wanted to release him. It's. I don't know. It just.
I mean, what are we gonna do with that? Like, what would a team do with the salary? I mean, I guess make a trade before the deadline.
You can make a trade. I don't know. Maybe work stuff out.
Because because the cap is irrelevant past this trade deadline because he wouldn't be on the team anyways, right? So.
Yeah. So maybe it was for this deadline.
So it has to be for this deadline, or else Kraft is just cheap, is what I'm taking away from it. I haven't. Again, this happened not too long ago, so I haven't, put.
Well, I guess also
the possibilities, but
to restructure a guy's contract who, missed the last couple weeks last year, then is missing the first 6 weeks this year, you might as well restructure it because he's not even playing. So I guess save money when you can for a guy who's not even playing. I guess maybe that's also a reason.
Yeah.
He's only going to play half the weeks anyways if he were to stay on your team for the whole year. So.
Yeah. All right, well, anyways, those are the two transactions, free agency, trade, that type of stuff. Do we just want to get into predictions or anything else before we?
Yeah, I don't think, nothing else really happened. So, yeah, I would say our predictions.
All right, do you want
to? Yeah, I'll start. Let me just pull it.
Oh, what are our records actually from?
Oh, yeah. I think they're updated, so through 4 it should be 20 games. I went 3-2, so I am 14-6.
And I want to say I went 4-1.
Yeah, you did.
So I am
11-9.
11-9. So what are you? 14-6.
14-6. Yeah.
Okay, it's close. I mean, it's not too close, but it's close enough to where I'm not too scared. And we still got to think of something.
Yeah, so we got to think of something. But I will say for this week's games, I don't know how confident I am in any of my picks. I don't like any of the games this week, to be honest. Yeah, I think a lot of them are just looking at it. It's like, it's just like it's rather like 2 good teams playing or like 2 bad teams playing, or it's like 2 division teams, so you just never know what's going to happen in that type of game. I just didn't really like the slate of games this week. And even in games where you might think you want to take it, it's like you just like the teams that like past history with stuff. I want it to stay away. So I really don't know how confident I am. I think if I go 2-3 or 3-2, I'll be happy. Honestly.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be happy with 3-2 like almost all the time. Ideally, I make up some ground here, but I don't feel super confident. I don't feel as confident as I did last week. Last week, I genuinely expected to go 5-0.
I mean, you went 4-1.
I went 4-1. I missed the game that I was the most confident in, but I did go 4-1. This week, I mean, most weeks I'm just, happy with 3-2, so we'll see. But you know what I was thinking actually we can do for like the end of the year thing would be the person who loses, has the worst record, has to make like a Google slide presentation on like why their partner is the better analyst and specific takes that, like a couple takes where the loser has been bad and the winner has had good takes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We can like structure it.
Yeah.
We can structure it more as we go on, but the tentative idea would be short presentation, why the winner is a superior analyst, and then a couple takes where the loser was bad, couple takes winner was good. So.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you start with week 5.
Yeah. All right. So my first game, I have Packers at Bengals. The line is -3 in favor of Green Bay, and that's what I'm taking. The Packers, I think, they've shown the last couple of weeks now that they are one of the better teams at least in the NFC. Back to being on that somewhat elite level, and I think that the Bengals have definitely shown a lot of improvement so far this season. They're also 3-1, just like the Packers. Had a lot of more close games. Haven't played the best opponents, to be fair. Vikings, Bears, Steelers, Jaguars, and a lot of those games were close. So, I don't know how much to take away from that. But I think just this game, even though the Bengals had the extra rest, playing on last Thursday night, I think the Packers are just a better team. And, I think this is a game that the Packers should just win convincingly. And, kind of put the Bengals back into somewhat of the place that they should have been at the start of the season. And the Packers are, going to be on their way to another division title.
My first game is the same game. I didn't have internet earlier, so that's why you can't see my picks. But I'm in the same boat as you. I think that's like, I don't know. The Bengals, to me, listen, they've been okay, but they have not been, like, they could be, what are they, 3-1 right now?
They're 3-1.
They could be like 1-3, really.
Yeah.
And I think the Packers, I think they have shown that they're all at least close to what they were the past couple years, which is a perennial NFC championship team. I think they're at least competitive with that level. Are they on the same level as last year? I'm not sure just yet, but they're at least close. I take the Packers to win by a touchdown. I think this is like a game where the Packers have a touchdown to 10-point lead the entire game, and you can feel the game's not really too competitive, but the Bengals technically have a chance to win. But I do think the Packers are just a far superior team, and Burrow probably throws a couple picks because they're down the whole game and he's passing. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think we have the exact same thought process on that one.
But I will say about the Bengals, Jamar Chase. Everybody thought he was a bust off the preseason. Like, I was worried too.
I was never worried, to be honest.
Okay, I was worried only because it's the Bengals, and that was the most controversial pick of the top 10. Not that it was a bad pick, but controversial because, like, do you go with Sewell because you literally don't have an offensive line? They go with Chase. He plays horrible in the preseason. And also the thing of him, there was something that came, I don't even remember what it was.
It was the college football versus the NFL football. And then it was harder to catch an NFL football. That's what he said.
Okay. I thought there was.
That's what everyone was like, all right, is this guy a bust at this point? Because, like you said, he was bad in the preseason. But the Bengals have always had good wide receivers. That's something they've always had,
For the most part. I mean, they went A.J. Green. Well, they went, they had Ocho Cinco into kind of the A.J. Green era. And now you kind of have the.
You even had like a Tyler Boyd in there. You've always had good receivers for the Bengals. That's something they've always had.
Decent receiver. Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, I'll take the Packers.
Yeah.
To win by a touchdown or more.
Yeah. And again, it's only -3. So, but yeah, I think we both agree that they probably win by a touchdown. All right. Next game for me, Dolphins at Bucks. The line's -10 for the Bucks, but I'm taking it. I think the Bucks coming off the loss to the Rams 2 weeks ago. Obviously one of the top teams in the league. And then last week, there's just, the emotional game, the tough game, down to the wire, the rain as well against the Patriots. This time we're going back home. It's probably going to be a beautiful day in Tampa. I think they're just going to have a great day offensively. I don't think Gronk's playing. I think he's out. But, you still have Brown, Evans, Godwin. You still have all your weapons there. I think just, going back home after being on the road for 2 weeks, 2 tough games, playing a Dolphins team that is just terrible. They're really bad. And again, the Dolphins have always played Brady when he was on the Patriots well. That was always a game. But, Flores obviously knows a lot of stuff. But I think, this is just a really bad team, the Dolphins. And I think the Bucs just destroy them, to be honest. I think it's the game where they just come out and they just put up like 40. They just come out and just destroy them.
Interesting. I think it's an interesting take. My next game is Eagles at Panthers, 1 p.m. Panthers favored by 3.5. I'm going with Carolina. This is a game I'm not super duper confident in, but I do think the Panthers are a legitimate team. Now, are they anything more than like a wild card contender? No. But I do think they're a legitimate team, and I do want to see them rebound coming off a loss against the Cowboys. And they didn't look great against the Cowboys, but, I mean, what do you think? Do you think the Panthers like proved themselves that game, or do you think they still have stuff left to be proven as far as like being a team that can compete for a legitimate wild card spot?
I think their offense definitely looked pretty good without McCaffrey. Again, like not having a guy like that, I think they still were able to move the ball and everything. They just had those 2 picks that flipped the game, but other than that, they were pretty decent offensively. But defensively, it just showed that the teams that they were playing the first 3 weeks were just terrible offensively because we just destroyed them. They were technically first in rushing and passing, and we just completely, put up numbers on them in both sides. So I think the defense definitely has more to prove. Now, maybe getting Gilmore back in a couple weeks helps, but and also getting Horn back at some point. But I think a wild card team, for sure. Again, they already have 3 wins. All you got to do is get to like 9 or 10, so it shouldn't be that hard. But this was a game that I didn't know if I wanted to touch, but you touched it. So. Yep. But you were taking, who'd you take?
I'm taking Carolina to win by more than 3.5 this week.
3.5, yeah, okay. You have it at 3.5. I have it at 3.
We'll stay with 3.5.
Okay.
I don't know how we have like the different.
I think it updates every like 10 minutes or something, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But all right. For my third game, I'm taking Browns at Chargers. I feel like I take the Browns every week. But
at some point that's going to bite you in the butt.
It probably will. Again, last week was ugly. I mean, they barely won that game, but
that's like they've had those games the past couple of years. They always have those games where like it's like the most boring game.
Yeah.
It's like they rush for a bunch of yards, but realistically both teams don't play very well, and the Browns somehow just squeeze out a win again in a week that they really shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
They're a team that to me I always think they play down to their competition. They typically play up to.
I think
it's like an in-division game against the Ravens or Steelers. Sometimes they'll get blown out, but typically they play up to their competition. Yeah, I also see them play down. So.
That's the thing. They do usually play up to the competition. Like the Chiefs, early, for week 1, they do whenever they're playing a top team. I do say they do play up to their competition, but they play the Chargers in this one. I guess the line is plus 2.5. For Cleveland, so that is what I'm taking. I'm taking.
Are they
Cleveland
at LA?
They're at LA, which that's like a home game.
That's like honestly, it's.
I mean, last Monday night was ridiculous. It was probably like 85% Raider fans, which makes sense, but even still.
Yeah, it's
like
to
not even have your own fans come to your own home game on Monday night, that's crazy. But I'm taking the Browns again. I love the Chargers, but. That Browns defense, I think Garrett's going to have a huge day. The offensive line for the Chargers is not good. I think, Garrett can easily, get inside of that pocket and sack Herbert at least a couple times, at least force stuff. That secondary is playing better. And I think it's going to come down to that and their rushing attack. The Chargers are not good against the run. And that's kind of what I'm looking for whenever the Browns play, is if the defense they're playing isn't good against the run, because they're just guaranteed to put up like 200 yards a game. It's just that's what they do. And as long as they can score when they get inside the red area, I think they're good. And again, 2.5. Again, they could lose this game and still cover it. But I think that this is going to be a really close game, a 4 o'clock game. So, yeah, I just like the Browns in this one.
Did you see Garrett got triple teamed last week?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's going to be interesting.
Defensive Player of the Year pick right there.
It's going to be interesting after this year ends, like where do you have Garrett as far as do you have him as the best pass rusher in the league right now?
Well, are we talking about pass rusher or just defensive lineman? Because I think there's a difference.
Sure. I mean, okay, let's just go the whole defensive line. I know you can't compare a defensive tackle to like an edge rusher, but just in terms of the defensive line, you're taking somebody for, let's just say, the next 3 years.
Oh, well, the next 3 years I'm taking Garrett for sure. But, even with Donald and, Watt's just a pass rusher. And I know he's good against the run and everything, but he's a pass rusher. I'm taking Garrett, and he's such a force on the inside, outside. He's just impossible to block. And again, Donald is like that, but like if Donald was what Garrett was, where he is technically a defensive end, but he can play, over the top, maybe I'd take Donald. But again, the age difference and everything, but Garrett's just ridiculous. He's just so good. If he didn't get COVID last year, he probably was Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. So you're taking for the next 3 years, you would take Garrett over Donald, over Watt, TJ Watt.
Yeah.
And JJ, obviously. But yeah, no, I probably would too. What about for the rest of just this year? You'd still take Garrett?
Yeah, I think I might.
I don't necessarily disagree.
I don't think you can go wrong. Like, I'd probably still have Donald as the number one guy because, again, 3 Defensive Player of the Years and everything, all the past. But, Garrett's that next guy, In the next year or two, it's going to be Garrett as the number one defensive lineman. Maybe even just defensive player. He may just be number one, which I think he definitely has a real case for.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. My third game is, I'm touching the Patriots again. I pretty much go to them every week, but Patriots at Texans. The Patriots are favored by 8.5 on the road, by the way. I'm going with the Texans. I think that's way too big of a spread. Are they an 11.5 point like better team than the Texans? Maybe, but
you have it at 11.5?
No, I have it at 8.5.
Okay.
But I mean they're on the road, so I'm just saying. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a closer game than people think. I think the Texans are a team that fights. I know they just lost 40-0 to the Bills, but they are a team that does fight as long as they're not completely outmatched by the Bills, who some people believe is like the best team in the AFC right now. I wouldn't agree with that, but I do think this is a closer game. I think the Patriots end up winning, but I think they win by a touchdown. Like I think they win between 3 to 7 points. It's not a game I'm super confident in. The Patriots could win by more than 8.5. Like it's not completely out of their own possibility, but I do think it is not a blowout from the start. I think it is a relatively close game, competitive, and the Patriots are able to win by, I'll just say, like 5 or so points. So,
yeah, I actually don't know how to feel about this game because if Tyrod Taylor is starting for the Texans, yeah, I mean, again, the line would be different, but yeah, I mean, the Texans are a much better team with him at quarterback, but with David Mills there, they're just not good, and I really wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots did, cover that, to be honest.
I wouldn't be, like, shocked either. I just think it's a lot of points. And
it is.
I mean, as solid as Jones has played, they have not put up points, really, even if Jones has played well.
No, but when you play a bad team like this with a better defense, the Pats defense, you're going to get turnovers, you're going to get sacks, you're going to win field possession. That's where the points come. Even if you're not a prolific scoring team, you'll at least put up points, whether it's field goals or even touchdowns, whatever. So I definitely could see it. I could see this game being like 24-10.
I could too, but I could also see it being
Texans
24-20. I mean, I really could.
Yeah, I will have to see. I mean, again, Mills has just not looked good. This was the Texans team that was supposed to happen at the beginning of the season if there was no Tyrod Taylor. So, he really did save them in that first game. And even the games that he played, he was just competitive. But, I guess we'll see. Again, that was a game I was kind of looking at, but I wasn't sure as well. But moving to my fourth game, I have Giants at Cowboys. This was like I kind of wanted to pick another game, but I just didn't love another game that I wanted to take, so I took this one. -7 in favor of the Cowboys. That is what I'm taking, but yeah, I mean I'm taking it because I think our team can just put up points against anyone. Again, the Giants defense has not looked good all year. They've been able to put up at least some points, but again, nothing really. I mean, look at their point totals. They put up 27 last week, but in overtime, 14 the week before, 29 against the Washington, and then 13 against the Broncos. So not a lot of points. Jones hasn't had fumbles or turnovers lately. I think that happens in this game. Our pass rush has been just playing incredible lately. Diggs has been playing amazing. And I think our offense can just outweigh that defense. And the only way I see this game being close, honestly, is just because it's a division game, and maybe that plays a factor into it. But we've owned the Giants the last couple of years, and I think we just beat. I think like this game, not even this game, but like it's this game is just gonna prove how much of a real contender the Cowboys are, not just in the NFC East, but in the NFC. This is a game where you're playing a bad team. You should just put them down early and win this game by 2 touchdowns.
Interesting. Okay, my fourth game is Bears at Raiders. The Raiders are 5-point favorites at home. And I'm going to go with Las Vegas. I don't think they're a great team. I think, them having the 3-0 start is obviously doesn't say as much about them as it does their schedule, I guess. But I do think they are a solid team. I think they're a team that's going to be in the hunt for the wild card the whole year, especially just because of the 3-0 start. Now, are they a wild card team? I don't think so. But are they better than the Bears? To me, yes. I really don't trust the Bears that much at all. I know it's not a hot take at all. Their offensive line seems awful. Really, everything seems awful. Now, the question is, are the Raiders the first 3 games, or are they last week? They could still be last week's Raiders and win by more than 5, I think. And I think the reality is they're somewhere in between the first 3 weeks and last week. They showed some flashes last week, even though they lost by 14 points.
Yeah.
They had Ruggs doesn't seem like a complete bust now. I mean, he doesn't seem like an all-star or anything, but
yeah.
he at least he's starting to use his speed, and he is still a threat. He's not somebody you can just ignore on the field now like you probably could have last year. So yeah, I'll go with the Raiders to win by more than 5.
Yeah, again, that was another game I was looking at as well. And I was touching last week, the Monday night game. If that offensive line for the Raiders could have held up just anything, I think they honestly have a real shot at that game. I mean, Carr had no time in the pocket at all. So again, they lost by 14, but I think it was a lot closer game than it actually seemed. They just had no offensive line. But my last game, Bills at Chiefs, Sunday Night Football. The line's 2.5 in favor of the Chiefs, but I'm taking the Bills. Even though I think the Chiefs will probably win, I think it's going to be a really close game. The Bills have been playing amazing the last 2 weeks. Now, again, it was against bad teams. I guess really the last 3 weeks. 35-0, 43-21, then 40-0. So, again, 3 not good teams, but, you just get that momentum. A Chiefs team that, they're 2-2. They, even last week they didn't play amazing. I mean, Mahomes had 5 touchdowns, but they kind of let the Eagles, hang in that game. I think it'll be different this week. Back at home, playing against one of the top teams, probably the second best team in the AFC, in the Bills. So again, a rematch of the championship game last year. I think it's gonna be a close game, down to the wire. It seems like every primetime game has been a really good game. So. I probably still have the Chiefs winning, but I think 2.5 covers. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills won.
I'm going the same game, different way. I'm going Kansas City to win by more than 2.5. Listen, the Kansas City Chiefs have not been great this year, and I agree with everybody's criticism of the Chiefs, whether it be defense, whether it be maybe consistency. Really, it's the defense, and I don't disagree with it, but it's just really tough to bet against a guy like Mahomes and a coach like Reid, especially in the regular season and in October too, even though they haven't been great. I think they're going to find a way to start getting back on track. The Eagles game did not go as great as I wanted it to, and I think the defense is a legitimate concern. You may need to look at what you can do during the deadline, whether that be trying to find a veteran like a Stephon Gilmore before, obviously not Stephon Gilmore, but a guy like that maybe somewhere out there. Just a couple moves you could make. But yeah, I'll go with the Chiefs in prime time to win by more than 2.5. I think it's a close game, though. I agree. I think it's a close game. I think these are potentially the 2 best teams in the AFC. I think most people would say they're the 2 best teams in the AFC. I'm not going to say that outright, but I think they're 2 of the best teams in the AFC right now. Potentially. I'll go with the Chiefs win by more than 2.5. Mahomes, to me, is still on another level than every other quarterback in the league right now still. I mean, I don't know.
Murray's definitely...
Murray's playing well, for sure.
Competing for that, top spot. But, yeah, I mean, Mahomes is for sure.
Overall, I don't know. I don't have Allen on that tier. Allen has not been great. He hasn't even been great in a game where they win 40-0. He hasn't been awful, but
I mean,
he is not what he was last year right now. Right, at least right now, he's not on the pace for finishing top 5 in MVP.
All right, so he's 63% completion percentage. Not amazing, but not bad. 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. I don't even know what his rushing touchdowns are or anything like that. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's not bad. And I think when the season progresses, I think he'll end up somewhere in that top 5 or top 6. He'll still end up there. Because I think Murray will, as long as he stays healthy, he'll be in there. So I guess, you're probably top 6 now. Murray would still be 5 or 6 or whatever, but I think that's kind of where I think Allen probably lands somewhere there.
Sure.
When the season ends.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now I don't think he's in that top 5. I just don't think he's played extremely well. Now his numbers aren't awful, but I don't think he's flashed as much as he did, especially early on last season. But I'll go with Chiefs. It's a tough bet to not go with. But those are our predictions. We'll see how it plays out. We have 2 of the same games again this week. I think we had 2 the same last week as well.
One of them is a different pick.
Sorry, you're right. Yeah, one of them we are going completely separate ways.
Really only one game.
Yeah, so one game we have the exact same. One game we both picked, but we went separate ways. The other 3 are completely different games.
And our same game as the Packers-Bengals one. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be...
3 is such a small spread. That's shock.
I guess that was the only one that I was actually confident in. Just because, I mean, 3, I mean, that means, they're only, if the Green Bay was home, they would only be, 6-point favorites. I think that'd be a crazy line.
Yeah.
I think that'd almost be 8.5, 10, somewhere in that range. So.
The Bengals are not a 3-1 team. The Raiders are a better team. I mean, would you have the Raiders as a better team than the Bengals?
Yeah,
okay. I would too. And I'm not a huge Raiders guy, but That is really just, yeah, I don't know. They probably should be. They should at least be 2-2. They shouldn't even be 3-1. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for this episode. Appreciate everybody stayed to the end. Feel free to check out the Clips channel. Brandon's Cowboys reaction minus Jalen Smith. I'm going to be coming out with the Patriots one at some point, talking about more in depth on Gilmore, especially on the Patriots side, and what that means for the defense. Stay tuned for NBA stuff on the Clips channel, MLB stuff on the Clips channel. Social media is all that in the description. Feel free. We will be back Sunday night. Brandon, anything else before we go?
No. By the time this video's out, our top 15 of the Sports Illustrated will be out on the Clips channel. So check that out as well. But yeah, just like the normal, weekly uploads, and then if we do a list or rankings or a tier list or anything like that, and then obviously our both our reactions for Patriots Cowboys, and then next week's gonna be a big week. Cowboys Patriots, we're gonna talk about it.
I mean, do we have to do well, I guess, okay, so after the Patriots Cowboys game, maybe we should do a conjoined episode on the Clips channel?
Yeah, we could do that, yeah. And I think next week one of our games should be that, and then I take Cowboys, you take Patriots.
Just like no matter what?
No matter what. Patriots are the home team, so you do have that in your favor.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys would be favored. Like, let's say they win this week. I think they'd be favored, but I don't know. Actually. I think they would, though.
Yeah, I think they would, too. I mean, it's going to depend on how this week looks, but...
Yeah. Who did the Pats play?
Texans.
Oh, well, yeah.
So, barring, like, the Cowboys losing in an ugly game and the Patriots winning by 25, I think the Cowboys will be favored.
Yeah, I think probably, like, 1.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 1.5,
Yeah.
2.5 maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be comfortable going. I think the Patriots win that game. I mean, I know it's far away. We're far away, but
yeah, we're still a week and a half. A lot can happen in a week and a half, but yeah, and yeah, I don't know.
Typically speaking, the Patriots and Cowboys games over the years have been exciting to watch as well. We haven't had like a boring.
Well, the last boring one was I think it was 2015. It was Greg Hardy's first game for the Cowboys. I won't forget it. The Patriots killed us, but I remember he had a sack on Tom Brady, and I remember that. But that was in Dallas, and we got killed. That was when the Patriots were like 14-2 that year or something. But maybe it was 2015, I think. But the last time we played was in New England, and I think we scored 7 points, or 3 points. We lost 10-3, I think, or something like that. It was like a cold game, super cold. Amari got shut down by Gilmore, so that there's no Gilmore this game. But we were a different team then than we are now. But still, yeah, we'll see. It's always going to be a tough game going to New England no matter what. So
yeah,
and it's a 4:25 game, so it's going to be cold.
That's going to be a Romo and Nance game, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's a Romo Nance game. So we'll see.
I haven't had any Romo Nance for the Patriots yet, so.
Yeah, I had it for when we played the Chargers, which that was nice to hear.
So okay, quickly, but who is your favorite commentator duo
between Fox, CBS, Sunday night?
I mean, literally take your pick. We're talking either you can take Collinsworth Michaels, you could take Romo Nance, you can take Buck Aikman, you can take you could take Schlereth and whoever. I mean, I'm not
even
taking
like the B team and the C
I'm talking. You can. I mean, maybe we should do a Clips channel, like just a tier list. But if you're taking your favorite right now, like who would you be taking?
It'd probably be Romo Nance. I just think it's fun watching that. But I do like the Sunday night. I will say I like a lot of people hate on them, but I think it's pretty good, honestly. But I'd probably say Romo Nance.
If you asked me, like.
I do like Kevin Burkhardt, whatever, the B team for Fox.
Yeah.
But he's with Greg Olson. I think it's his first year. He's a little shaky, but.
Yeah, you know who I don't like is Monday night. I mean, Monday night tonight, I think it's okay now. But
I think it's okay.
It's never. I mean, okay.
It was
Tirico and Gruden.
Yeah, I was about to say that's when it was the best. At least for our lifetimes, we didn't grow up in like the '90s or whatever. But yeah, they were the best. And then as soon as when Tirico left, and he's probably going to replace Michaels on Sunday night, but. Yeah, that was for sure the best.
Yeah, I don't know when that would be, but there's been games where it's been Tirico, Harrison, and Dungy. I don't like Dungy and Harrison really, but.
Well, that's only because they're just taking a break or whatever. But I think the future for them is Tirico and Breeze is the future.
You think so?
I would probably give it 2 years. Because like Breeze starts off on the pregame, postgame, does that, the studio guy, and then when Michaels retires, which is. he may just get forced out of that because he's, I think Tirico is looking for it, and if he doesn't, he'll probably leave, which I don't know if they want that or not, NBC. So, I think that may just be like a forced out, and then Collinsworth would probably be out as well.
I mean, I like Michaels though. I like Michaels more than Tirico.
I like him. Yeah.
I just maybe. Are you saying like purely based off of like age, and they don't want to? Because they could have Tirico for the next 30 years. They at most Michaels is doing what 5 more years.
Yeah, I think it's like age. Michael's been doing it since like the 80s. He's been doing everything, so that may be why as well. And I think like contract wise, just like
Tirico did Olympic stuff for NBC.
Yeah, and that's that's something that he does as well. But like if I think he's looking for that Sunday night job. He's been doing this for a couple of years now, and after doing Monday Night Football, so he's probably getting paid more, but because he's doing the Olympics and everything. But you definitely want that Sunday night gig, I should say.
I would agree. I like Collinsworth. My only criticism of Michaels and Collinsworth is they're very just like too afraid to say stuff sometimes, and they kind of defend things when they shouldn't be defended, in my opinion. Or not shouldn't, but like sometimes they're just a little bit like for me. But they've historically been my favorite. But I think right now I'm leaning towards Romo and Nance. But I think those two are extremely close. I'm not a big Buck fan. I know you aren't either. I mean, nobody really is a huge Buck and Aikman guy, but I think they've gotten better. Like, I think Buck's better than he was,
like the early 2010s. He was not good. He has gotten better, but like what I look for is like excitement. Like, someone who gets excited during big plays. Like, you have to show that passion. Like, obviously you're not being biased, but like you just have to show the passion that you're into the game. Like, this kind of a little bit off topic, like when the Mariners had that win, like the second to last game, like they showed the video of their commentator, and he just like was so into it. And again, I know that's like a local one, but like that's what I look for. Like Gus Johnson's like he's the best, but he's with the Keep Talib. Keep Talib sucks, but Gus Johnson's the best. Like,
I like Gus Johnson. I don't.
He gets so excited. Yeah, that's why I love it.
I love Gus Johnson. This is his first year back in the NFL, right? Because he didn't do NFL last year.
He may have done like spots, but yeah, I think this is maybe his first like full time back in the NFL.
Because he was full time back in like the Stokely days, like 2010s, early 2010s.
Game, the Bengals Broncos. Game,
yeah,
like Stokely on the sideline. So
yeah, that's a great call. I will say though, I wouldn't want Gus Johnson in my Sunday night spot. I wouldn't want him in my Monday night. To me, he's like a really good 1 o'clock or maybe a 4 o'clock.
He's a good 4 o'clock. He's a good like Cardinals game. Like any Cardinals game is probably a good Gus Johnson game. Yeah, he's a good 1 o'clock. Yeah, he's like he's one of those time slot guys, which is fine. It's obviously not a problem.
Talib is literally awful.
Yeah, like a lot of people like it because it's like different, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it works for sometimes, but most of the time I don't think it really works. So
he could improve. There's not enough, just what Romo and Collinsworth give you. I mean, does Talib really give any insanely good insight? No.
Yeah, not really.
He's not on that level. I never look forward to hearing Talib. I know this is first year too, right?
I know he did some last year. I don't know if he was full-time last year, but I know he did some.
Yeah, but that's something we actually should do on the podcast, on the Clips channel. It's just a tier list of everybody, because there's people I'm not thinking about.
There's one guy for CBS. He usually does the 4 o'clock games. I think he's a really good voice. Oh, Spiros. What's his first name? I can't remember his first name is, but he has a really good voice. Like, he's got a perfect voice, but I think he's the C team for CBS. Yeah, because Iron Eagles B team, so I think he's C team. But he's like young, so he probably in the next couple of years he'll probably move up. But
Harlan.
Yeah, Harlan's always good. He's always like a Jets or Pats game though.
Sure. I think he's a solid
he's a good voice.
To me, he's like a good 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock guy. I mean,
I think he's the best NBA guy.
Really?
Well, I guess you could say Breen, but I don't know. I like I think when Harvin does the game, I think it's a really good.
I like Harlan too. I think he's a great. Listen, I mean, to me, if we're talking across all 4 sports, to me, I'm taking Breen. Like, I just think he's so good.
Maybe it's because he does Knicks games, and I always watch Knicks games, so maybe that's why. Like, it's not like anytime I'm watching a game, like a national game, and it's a Breen game, it's like any local Knicks game that he's on. So maybe that's why. But he's obviously still like rather first or second. But I think when Marv Albert, when he was like in his prime, I think he was the best. But obviously he just retired. So
yeah, I mean, I like Marv Albert too. He's obviously really old, but
yeah. But yeah, I think we should do a tier list for every single, maybe not every single sport, but
at least football. At least football, basketball. I think.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, that Okay. I already gave the whole spiel or whatever, so we'll be back Sunday night. Goodbye.